Howdy, y'all. This is Trent Knox. On this episode of the Trent Knox Show, I reflect on the trials and errors of quarter 4 2021. I acknowledge the failures and lack of experience leading to unsuccessful circumstances, and those experiences that built character in me and enabled me to make more efficient processes and systems to make my business direction more successful. And I hope you really enjoy this episode. If you have any feedback, don't hesitate to leave it in the reviews on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or anywhere you can leave a podcast review. Go ahead and drop that in the podcast reviews. I don't really care if you give me 5 stars, 3 stars, whatever the case may be. Just need some feedback, and I need to know how I can improve and make this show better. It's something that I like to be a little bit off the cuff with, and I hope you enjoy this episode.
I just roll the dice, pack up in the Audi, back and go, little Joe. I just hit for 40, ripping on some grain, swinging like I stole it. Shorty got big thighs, juicy how she poking. I just roll the dice.
Okay, so here we go. I've been reluctant to do this podcast as of yet, but I think it's about time, and part of it has to do with the fact that I am kind of having a slow day today. I mean, it's the end of the month in February 2022, so it is February 28th, 2022 when I'm recording this. And I've been doing these quarterly wrap-ups. Each time a quarter ends, I try to do a reflection or a recap on the events that transpired in the quarter previous to the one that we're currently in. And I delayed this one, and I delayed it for about 2 months because I didn't feel that I had a real understanding of what had happened beginning in October to what had happened at the end of December. And we'll have to talk about crypto, we'll have to talk about business, we'll have to talk about personal relationships, we'll have to talk about a lot of context when it comes to what happened in quarter 4 of 2021, beginning in October. If those of you don't know, there are 4 quarters in a year because there's 12 months in a year. I've been running into this issue when I speak with people about how to structure their businesses, and they don't think in the same terminology of quarters. And some of the clients and prospects that I've begun working with, and I probably should put this disclaimer out there. This podcast may inspire emotional feelings in and people, not necessarily the people that I know, but the people listening, those that I do know and those that I don't know. And what I want is that disclaimer is out there saying, like, this is not financial advice. This is not business advice. This is just the circumstances that I went through and how I reflect in my perspective on the events that transpired. And what kind of sent me down this spiral of isolation, of depression, anxiety, these things that push me to, and no one knows this, but, or maybe some people do, but that um, I became some. I just didn't want to really put my burden, my problems on other people. And those problems, they're not all resolved. So, I mean, that's why I say that some of this is personal for me. Some of it is relationships with other people and how, communication and lines of communications get disrupted. Um, and that part of the things that happen were um, failures on my part that I have to take accountability for, responsibility for, and I also have to learn from those mistakes. So talking through them also helps make me a better person. But I hope it that also helps helps out with the listeners that are tuning into this podcast. And um, I do these sort of things like when when I do have the time, and that when things are in a lull, so that it doesn't disrupt anyone else's operations or things that are going on, and it is just a way for other people to reflect on their experiences and what they went through, as well as kind of potentially give me sage advice on to how to approach the next situations in a more enlightened, in a more experienced manner, so that people um, benefit positively from these experiences and these initiatives that we're taking. So now that that disclaimer is out of the way and that everything there is described, because not everyone is speaking from the same dictionary, same book, as it were, and even more so in the times that we're going through now with, kind of just reflecting on the current state. And then I won't go into too much of 2022, but since we are dealing with an international mental health crisis, an international um, warfare crisis, these things that we're going through with that of Ukraine and Russia and China and India and all of these things that are going on outside of my purview of the United States and my purview of Texas and my perspective and my vantage point from Austin, Texas. So, without further ado, let's get into this podcast. Um, some of the things that began in October were an opportunity to do offline video production in a way that was modular and would attempt to um, lower the cost and the threshold of high production video for the average small business. And we were able to accomplish something that a lot of other companies aren't able to accomplish because they just don't have the technical wherewithal or know how to do it. And that came as a sacrifice to other ventures and um, you know the things that exist are that you got to sometimes make decisions between that which you are pursuing, your dreams, when especially if you're a solo player like myself, the aspiration and goals of of the long game for the um the rewards of the short game. And sometimes that's, you know, something that we don't have all the ducks in a line or your eggs in a basket to know that you have your baskets of goods covered. So then you have to make these sacrifices and say, hey, I'll go do this gig in lieu of the opportunity to expand your your vision and your dreams in another vertical or a different niche, and you end up having to sacrifice your time, for money in exchange for your ability to pay your bills, feed yourself, feed your family, whatever the case may be, right? Um, and no good deed goes unnoticed, but also good deeds can be um, good deeds can be overlooked, and especially in the business world, because entrepreneurs and small business owners and people that are in business, they have this saying that it's just business, it's not personal, right? And so people tend to not invest themselves in people in business, because the consequences are that that person becomes too um vital to your business, and you wouldn't be able to replace them. And you got one two options: cut them off uh at sea and see if they won't drown, if they can swim, or you keep them on a retainer in order to maintain the relationship and keep them going. And that's not always the case. That's not always what how things transpire. um and then the next iteration is, sometimes even myself, when I'm looking at my the activities that went on in October, you you almost try to do so many things, but the the clients or the prospects that you're trying to get to be your clients, um they're not prepared to juggle like you are. And maybe you're the best clown in the game, or maybe you're the best bartender, or whatever the case may be. And your employers, or your opportunities, or whatever the case, whatever you want to call it, they're they're going to expect more out of you than you have to give. And they're going to try to exploit you. They're going to try to take advantage of you. Bare minimum, basically make you work for free, and then don't give you credit for the work that you did do. And then if you see that this is the case, and this person is trying to exploit you, and you tell them, "Hey, you're trying to exploit me," they just they turn away from you, and you called their bluff. So that was one of the things that did happen during that period. A tough period for me. I also want to, speak on that, because this is October is my mom's birthday, right? It's on the calendar. I'm looking at it right now. And each and every year, your family, especially those that are your elders, get older, and you watch them, live their life, and you start to realize, once you become an adult yourself, this for the younger audience, that a lot of the things that they went through, yeah, they can contribute to your experience, but you're going to have different experiences that you have to learn these um, these lessons on your own. Because you know, let's just keep it a buck. Like, I was thinking about, wow, right before I got on this podcast, I was in the gym. I was thinking about the fact that walked. Jesus walked, right? And he was able to get his message out there. He was able to do everything that we know him to have done with just word of mouth. There wasn't this Pony Express, USPS, the internet, email, none of that, not a phone in sight, but he was able to get his message out there. And that's the case with your older generations as well. As generations go by, you start to realize that technology becomes a crutch for younger generations. And the next iteration of that, we'll talk about social media, the metaverse, etc. In October, some of the things that I don't have on my calendar and I don't have in my notes are the activities that I spent on Clubhouse, Twitter Spaces, etc., talking about these sort of subjects. And um, you know, you younger generations have to learn on their own, on the fly, how to appropriately communicate on these new forms of communication. And with Elon Musk and Neuralink and Starlink and all these different communication channels and platforms, I as the older generation can only give suggestions as to how it should be done and how it shouldn't be done. And sometimes the suggestion of to put a governor or a limitation on your your communication is not the best thing for you. And even though older generations are looking out for you, they're trying to instill their fears in you, so that you can protect their fears instead of instilling their beliefs and their pride in you. They instill these fears and these insecurities and etc. That may not be best for you. And I'm even saying that from my own standpoint, speaking from my own insecurities and my own fears and my own regrets and these things, and my advice towards the younger generation as they approach this new form of media, whether that be Web3, whether that be the metaverse, whatever you want to call it, virtual reality. Um, just thinking about the way to conduct yourself in that arena, in that sphere of influence. So um, going forward, what something that actually happened early on was this revelation of sorts. Well, I wouldn't say that. I would say that this seed that I planted didn't actually sprout for uh, really until the beginning of 2022. But it was a seed that I planted at the beginning of quarter four of 2021 that um, brought prosperity, and was a seed that was able to be reaped. Um, and there are some bending to the truth here. There's a little bit of bending to the truth, but it is relatively true. And so that relationship did transpire, and is it is. I'm still waiting for some of this crop to be ready to be harvested. And maybe it just needs to get watered a little bit more, and we're talking. I'm using farming analogies in order to describe this without being forthright about the who, or the what, because some of this stuff is under non-disclosure agreements, and so I can talk about the principle of it, but I can't necessarily talk about it directly. And one of those things is has made life for me very complicated. And I'll just say that because the money hasn't come in yet, and that because of the holidays, the money was delayed and then lost, and now I'm waiting for a new check to be issued. Um, I'm, uh, you know, depending on a system of archaicism, and that goes back to like the fact that yes, Jesus walked, but if Jesus had email, if Jesus had if the Buddha had email, if Muhammad had email, like could you imagine, their ability to reach their believers, their followers, etc. That's sort of reflective of how everybody has their 15 minutes of fame these days. And so then this is where I was kind of just lost after the fact of miscommunication, loss of communication and misinformation and etc. at the beginning of October. Coming through the second week to the third week of October, it was just like, beating me down. I went on a little bit of a vacation to go and see my good friends Becca and Brian get married, and then become the Kerns. And that um was in Palm Springs, California, and I hadn't been back to California in like 4 or 5 years, maybe more than that actually. I mean, the last time I was there was traveling for a different wedding, and when I showed up, it was a good experience. Never been to Palm Springs before. I'd only been to San Francisco and Northern California, really not too much southern other than Los Angeles. Um, I guess that's not true actually. I did go to an event for DreamHack Anaheim at the very beginning of the pandemic, but it wasn't an experience of real um, real California. So then I stayed at a tennis club. It's pretty cool. Nice little tennis club. I didn't get a chance to play any tennis, but stayed at a tennis club. And then a bunch of things, were out of order. So after the Palm Springs event, I was supposed to go to Vegas for a convention that was canceled. The National Association of Broadcasters, and so I ended up just coming back home to kind of an empty schedule and with nothing to do because I had expectations that I had been gone um, for the middle of October of 2021, but it was it wasn't in the cards, I guess. The COVID thing was still um, is still creating problems and making it problematic for offline events, in-person events to transpire, especially in a state like California, and in an adjacent state like Las Vegas. So it was nice that Brian and Becca were able to get their video or get their wedding off in the midst of a global pandemic. And then I came back, and you know, if you listen to previous episodes, this is a little bit of a callback. I had I had moved out of my family's um, house and everything. I mean, I moved on and off again out of my grandparents' houses previously. Not too much. I actually lived with family the majority of my early 20s, but now that I'm going on in my late 20s, I've had different experiences outside of being locked down. But um, the end of my lease, my first ever lease, apartment lease, came up for my apartment, and that was actually going to be quite a bit of a frightening situation because my the inflation on my monthly rent went up about 20%, and so my month to month rent was going up, and in the face of so many events being canceled, uh, we were troubled. We were in deep shit, and I was able to hold it out with all the things that did transpire, but it was tough, and we were able to get through it. Fourth quarter, we were 4th and 20, trying to get our first down. And I didn't mention this, but like a lot of the clients, I kind of glazed over this, but a lot of the clients I've been talking to have been asking for a sports minded approach, somebody who communicates in the language of sports for their freelancers and part-time and full-time staff and whatnot. They're looking for people who communicate in the language of sports. I communicate in the language of sports sometimes. I communicate in the language of business a lot. Communicate in the language of media a lot. Film, music, communicate in these languages. Um, but we wrap up October 2021 with the word SeaWorld. Went to Fright Fright Night at SeaWorld on the 30th, and I've been using that word SeaWorld a lot lately. In the sense of I would like to see the world, even though we are in lockdown and it's complicated to get a passport and all these caveats as to why um, why travel is complicated and not seamless and efficient. That there are all these restrictions and regulations that those that govern us can place upon us without without a personal touch. It's a blanketed approach to um, how we engage with humanity. So I had a couple of meetings in the beginning of November. Again, those of you who don't know this, November is my birth month. It is the month that I get to enjoy myself, I guess, and celebrate myself. And that I am a Scorpio. I was born on November 12th, and let's just say that there was a the first week of November, people were wasting my time regularly. Um, and I don't know if that's an economics thing or what the case may have been, but they were speaking a big game in regards to what they could do. I would say there's one exception to these meetings that I took in November, at the beginning of November, but they were speaking a big game, which they could not deliver on. And so that was a big waste of time. And then November, the second week of November, I guess the depression started to set in. And I guess that's partly because, I was turning 28. I wouldn't call it a midlife crisis, but it was definitely a reflection on all of the things that I didn't accomplish in my early 20s or late teens. You know, I tried to attend a meeting regarding to venture capital on my birth date. I actually did my best to avoid my my birthday. I was looking for any opportunity to get out of the mindset and sadness of turning 28. It was really actually something that really bothered me. Um, and then the events the events got canceled, and there was no learning opportunity. There was not this opportunity to expand my 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 understanding of the world. It wasn't to be. And I don't place this burden upon any individual, but I think it's a systemic issue where the systems that we rely on fail, whether that be the government, whether that be the corporations, whether that be whatever the case may be that we rely on. We expect them to have a uh, impenetrable uptime, meaning that they're always available and always ready to serve and be there. But just like I had gone through this lull, um, th- others also face these mental health um, episodes, mental health episodes that are negative. They're not positive, they're negative. Um, Going forth through that, the day after my birthday, I was able to support my mom by uh, by attending a craft fair and helping her sell her custom made products. And if you're interested in learning more about my mom's custom made products, you can go to rkcreationswithlove.com. Again, that's rkcreationswithlove.com. After that, who is this? I don't even know who this person is. I presume that was some nonsense. I took a meeting with something that was nonsensical. Um, Still just trying to figure out how to network in business without wasting my time. And also had let a lot of things that a lot of maintenance on myself, some personal maintenance go by for uh, an extended period of time. Um, One of those things being going to the dentist, right? I hadn't seen a dentist in like 3 years because previously to the pandemic, like it was bad. It was just like I was constantly trying to grind and get things done. Grind, not grind my teeth, but grind in the sense of work as hard as possible to accomplish as much as possible, even at the sacrifice of family, friends, wealth, just sacrifice everything just to try and make it, just to be recognized and and acknowledged for something. Like, because when I look at my peers, when I reflect on my peers and the things that they've done, they've accomplished way more than I've accomplished. I mean, it's just my portfolio lacks real real it's not well defined. It's just a bunch of things that I've done that aren't exemplary or amazing or outstanding in comparison to others, or my peers, I should say. I've just done things. Again, more cancellations, um, more failure, more things that didn't go the right way. I have no idea what this was. I guess I was. Oh, I do know what this was. It was an introduction of two companies that I have no idea what came of that. Then then came then came the first opportunity for me to um, do something in a different vertical, do something new with cosplay, and I failed. And now I'm just right now reminding myself of how big that failure was and reflecting on the mistake, because now I just remember that I've given so much and I've been asking for something that it's just not being reciprocated. The love is just not being reciprocated from all different angles, from the expectations of life to friends to family. The love is just not reciprocated. I give the love, but the love is not returned. That's the trouble with this bullshit. And I let that one loose. I did. Um and maybe it just wasn't, you never know unless you go through it and you experience the failure. Because I just let this, I let this be and go on this cosplay event, Colossal Con Texas 2021, go, because I just didn't see the value. I didn't see the return on investment for attending this event and trying to expand the cosplayer.gg branding. It wasn't there. I was trying to make a deal with another photographer. I was trying to figure out a way to make it work, and it was just like they just weren't in there. They just weren't ready to contribute. So then another lull, another lull, another lull, and just a continuing a continuation of events not going according to plan. Um, and so I'm, oh man, this month of November just did not go well for me. It was attempts at cosplay, attempts at crypto, metaverse, Web3, just things that I'm looking at. Attempts at learning management, attempts at these attempts that I've been making that really it was like the game was over by the time I reached the plate on some of these things. It was, somebody tried to steal a base, and I'm at the plate, and I look over and say, "Well, why'd you do that, man? You made it so that I couldn't even take a swing at the ball. You're trying to, my own teammates fucked me over, essentially by trying to steal a base. Nobody even called the coach didn't even ask you to steal a base. You just try to steal a base. It was we got two outs. There's one out on the left, and you take this gigantic risk, and you try to steal a base, and the bases aren't even loaded. Like, I haven't even swung yet. And it's like this is selfishness. You see, this is like I see how other people than myself were selfish. This is selfish, 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 selfish. Just counting all the moments in here, 99% of these meetings that I took were people being selfish, trying to exploit my goodwill for their own benefit. So I give like an hour of free consulting to someone and then they go and implement a strategy that I provide them to, and then cut me out of the deal. Uh, I provide somebody with a direction for their next employment. They get the employment, don't even thank me. And the audacity that the events they set up, outsiders coming into a local market and exploiting it for for its own resources and capital. Like, look at these things. I'm just like fresh. It's in the past, so we move on. We move on to December. Oh, what the month that everybody loves, December, the month that everybody loves, because guess what? It's the baby Jesus's birth, and we mentioned earlier in this podcast and recap about the fact that Jesus walked. Yes, he did. Jesus walked, and he got his message out there, man. We still hear his message to this day, and he's able to do that even without a communication channel like this one, where I'm broadcasting to multiple different platforms just to get this podcast out there. Um, this is when my mindset kind of turned around, and I was starting to structure and be able to get these meetings back on track, because when I was taking these initial meetings, it was not going according to plan, and some of these things fell through. They did slip through the cracks. you know some of these things I'm still following up with these prospects about, to see, like, well, what happened here? Like, why'd you leave me hanging? Why'd you leave me out in the cold? I mean, I brought my hand warmer and all this, and I know we're at the snow bowl, and we're a we're a warm weather team. You have us out here in the cold, no snow jacket, no hoodie, no beanie, no gloves, no boots, no chains for the tires, just leaving us out here right in the cold. Freeze our nuts off, freeze everything out here, man. Just leaving us out in the cold, just to just to get hypothermia and die because of the lack of concern to other people's well-being. uh Ironically, it's just the irony of some of these, um of the branding around some of these names, about the fact that they display themselves or advertise themselves as being, um warm, friendly, um welcoming, inclusive, and they're the most divisive, exclusionatory, exclusionatory. That's probably not the right way to say that word, but their their perspective on diversity is that, the minor not that they don't include minorities. That's their diversion, their sense of diversity. Hilarious. um all this, whilst something great is going on, you know where we are pushing for diversity. We are, as EBN, advocating for real diversity and inclusion, and bringing monetization uh to those disenfranchised streamers, those disenfranchised by the system, that's fake, the Twitch system that is completely fake. It's just fake. It's just, they don't have real diversity. They don't have real anything. They don't have anything. That's their limitations that they've placed on their structure has made it that those that really need their resources and assets don't get it, but those at the top 1% do and accumulate it all. Um, and it transpires into a horrific Game Awards of 2021, where it was just essentially a great pat on the back for all those, um, that are on the inside of the games industry. It was a way to give their own friends kudos. Good good job, buddy. Here's a pat on the back. And give themselves awards, um, rather than really digging deep into the crates and discovering new talent, new people with emerging voices, rather than they just gave basically their underlings in the AAA and AA, games industry, a reward for participation in their system. I'm just baffled by these things that uh, we're trying to accomplish, but without, I guess, without those philanthropic people, or those people with goodwill in mind. I don't know what they're going to be doing. So then you have a workshop that happened on the 20th, that I don't think actually transpired, but we were able to record a podcast for, uh, the metapreneurship.io. Uh, and then we just kind of coasted it out. Had the holidays, everything everything kind of wrapped up, and the new year started. But those were some of the things that happened in 2021 at the very end of it. It was a loss. It was just there's just these things that were people were over promising and under delivering for me, and then I was over promising and under delivering. So it was like passing the potato, or, the hot potato down toward everyone, and that was sort of the problematic part of it. And I think that that's sort of being wrapped up. And so as I wrap up here, because I'm gonna give this one a close and then put an intro on this one, and then give it a nice little bow. But things are looking up. We had to talk about the past. The past were things that weren't going my well, not only my way, but other people around me. It wasn't going well for them as well. But we have to take the good with the bad, and we learn from our mistakes, and then we implement better strategies to do better in the future. And so, for those of you who are listening to this podcast, I thank you for listening to the Trent Knox Show. And again, this has been the 2021 quarter four recap. Uh, if you'd like to check out more content, you can go to trentknox.com. You'll find different links to a variety of different resources, from jobs to coupons, all different things on my website, blogs as well, content, what I've done previously. Again, listen to more episodes of the podcast, give it a 5-star review, etc. And I'll catch you guys on the next one.